President Donald Trump's executive order temporarily banning immigrants from 7 predominantly Muslim countries has been met with confusion and backlash all over the world. The Council of American Islamic Relations has filed a federal lawsuit on behalf of more than 20 people challenging the immigration ban, one of several federal suits that have been filed over this order. Joining me now is Arsalan Bukhari from the Council of American Islamic Relations. Good to have you here this morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
So there was a lot of confusion about the rollout of this order at many airports around the world and federal agencies on how to enforce this. What are you hearing from those that are affected directly by this order?
You know, what surprised us is that it's not only affecting people from those 7 countries, and it's not just affecting those who are non-citizens. We heard from many citizens, U.S. citizens, law-abiding people, as well as people who are traveling from countries beyond the 7 Muslim majority countries that were named in the executive order. So it's, the most important thing is that it's keeping people from meeting their loved ones, but it's also keeping people from traveling for business as well, and that there's a lot of impact there as well.
Are the implementations of the policy going more smoothly now that we've had a few days to kind of work out the kinks?
You know, it's hard to tell. We're still getting reports from people who are wondering about their future. They have travel plans for business and for just visiting their family members, and they're wondering now whether they can travel anymore. And that's the sort of uncertainty in this sort of order is causing.
Well, let's talk about the lawsuit that CARE has filed. It challenges the constitutionality of the order. Explain why you believe it's unlawful.
Well, you know, one thing that's notable about the plaintiffs on that lawsuit, all 20 of those plaintiffs are in America, are Americans. This executive order clearly targets American Muslims. It stigmatizes American Muslims. It stigmatizes a whole class of people. It doesn't just target all people from those 7 countries. Rather, it targets Muslim persons from those 7 countries, and it exempts religious minorities from a Muslim majority country, which means non-Muslim persons. So it's clearly a target is Muslims, and we're filing a lawsuit to challenge that on constitutional grounds.
The Trump administration and the White House has been pretty adamant about the term ban even, and what Donald Trump on the campaign trail called for, and this is a quote, a total and complete ban on Muslims entering this country. The White House at this point is adamant that this is not a ban. It is not a ban on Muslims. But what do you think? Well,
those who are affected by it are Muslim persons. As I mentioned, not just Muslim persons from foreign countries, U.S. citizens, law-abiding people. And not only are they affected by it, technically, it also stigmatizes millions of children going up across the country who are law-abiding U.S. citizens who are Muslims themselves. And that's a real impact of these sorts of executive orders. It doesn't just affect the people that it technically is supposed to target. It stigmatizes and targets an entire class of people, people who are Americans, who are U.S. citizens, and who believe in the promise of America.
There are many people out there, Democrats, we've heard from some Republicans, we've heard from many scholars who believe this policy actually makes Americans less safe from terrorists. Do you?
Well, you know, law enforcement leaders across the country have said for years that singling people out because of race or religion does not keep us safe. So any sort of advice to the contrary is going in the face of any advice given by law enforcement leaders worldwide. And again, this is really about us as Americans. What kind of a country are we? We're a country that is e pluribus unum, out of many, one. We're a country that prides itself on religious freedom. We're a country that welcomes all. We don't discriminate based on religion. This executive order is un-American.
When do you anticipate these cases will be heard? We know that the Attorney General here in Washington wanted to have his case heard in federal court within 14 days. What about CARES?
We're hoping this gets heard in court. We don't have a date yet, but we're hoping it gets heard in the coming days soon, because we want this executive order repealed.
And what do you envision happening if it is repealed?
If it is repealed, we'll go back to being able to visit our loved ones, whether they be across the border in Canada or across the sea in Europe. And people can travel again for business without having to worry about being able to come back to their office after they've made a deal with vendors or suppliers across the sea over in Europe. You know, people should be able to live their lives freely without having to worry about being singled out because of their faith or their race or religion.
If it is repealed, do you envision this administration going about it in another way, pursuing it in a different angle, or maybe this just being the beginning of a more broad policy?
It's hard to tell what's coming up next, but I think for all Americans, you and me and people watching at home, this is really about us as Americans. What kind of a country are we? We strive to be a nation, one nation under God, indivisible. That's what we should keep in mind as we respond to these executive orders, is that this is going to shape who we are as a nation and where we're going to be as a nation in the next 4 years and 8 years. And that's why we're taking this so seriously.
Arsalan Bukhari from the Council of American Islamic Relations. Great to have you this morning. We appreciate it.